So guys, if you're in the startup business, you have to operate like a founder. Doesn't matter whether you are a professional, a developer, product manager, sales guy, whatever. You do have the founder's mindset. Otherwise, you don't work in startups. Then you work in large organizations, right? And why I'm saying that is because, the one way we solved Kumar's problem of recoverables is to actually go on a fully prepaid model. Customers can't use our product until they're prepaid for either a quarter or a half yearly or an annual model. That's another interesting hack to secure revenue streams. We already have money in the bank. If you don't pay, you don't have access. Simple. Sometimes, we as people tend to overthink situations and hesitate to take hard decisions. Okay? And I wouldn't want to say this is an India characteristic or a world characteristic, and I may make references to different geographies, cultures, etc., but they're purely and only based on the way different people think in different cultural setups in terms of their mindsets. Nothing beyond that, right? And we sometimes struggle to take hard decisions even when we're building our product. We sometimes struggle to ask for money, okay? This is going to cost you $50,000 per month. You'll struggle to say that when you're building a product. You said, is this worth? Okay, maybe it's worth $1,000. Maybe it's worth. You're not the buyer. You're the seller. You don't know what the buyer's dynamics are. The buyer has a 50 million budget for it. You have to access that budget by being confident of what you're doing. And that will only come to you when you operate with that founder's mindset. And that will only happen if you are truly passionate about what you're doing. Kumar beautifully explained the whole ICP model, right? That model will come alive for you if you are fueled by passion for what you're doing. Are you really passionate about what business you're building as a founder? Ask yourself that question every single day. Do you feel like waking up every day in the morning and going out there and making impact? You're not a founder because you want to make tons of money. There are other ways of making tons of money without having to build. If you're really building a startup so that you can get rich and move around in a Lamborghini, probably that's not the fastest way to do that, because this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard work every single day of your wakeful existence. It's going to be hard, okay? But if you really enjoy that process of building things, that process of creating a market, that process of solving problems, that process of transmitting value into the world out there, then you are a founder. And it's a calling, trust me guys. It's a calling. It's not a fancy title. Hey, you're the CEO of a cool startup. That fancy title will wear off in a few months. When the grind of running the business hits you, the grind of meeting payroll hits you, the grind of not letting your customers churn hits you, and the grind of meeting your investor expectations hits you. It is very, very hard, right? Elon Musk, the greatest founder of all times in recent times, someone who's like alive today. Maybe Steve Jobs was the greatest founder or whatever. Somebody asked Elon Musk, hey, what's so great about being Elon Musk? He said, if I have a chance, I don't want to be Elon Musk. Think about that. Richest man in the world, right? Revolutionizing some of the biggest industries in the world. But he doesn't want to be Elon Musk. Why? Because it's challenging. It's not easy. So if you're startup founders, all of you, and I think Kumar did do a little bit of a profiling exercise earlier on, so I'll keep that in mind in terms of what stage you guys are in and what you're building and all of that. Passion is your moat. Business models will change. Product will evolve. MVP will not be the most viable product 10 years later. You'll start with something and you'll end up with something completely different. And that's where you got to have to straddle between focus and pivot. That's another important problem for founders to deal with. You will always have a temptation to do something slightly different every day. And a customer might even encourage you to do that. A big paying customer will come to you and say, you know what, you guys don't have a payment solution built into your product. Why don't you build it? So so I jumped right into this because I got carried away with all the enthusiasm around startups and founders and all, right? But let me tell you quickly about who we are as Loginext, right? Loginext is essentially a logistics automation platform, right? It's essentially a logistics automation platform, which means you can have any kind of logistics operations anywhere in the world. You could be a quick service restaurant delivering burgers in 20 minutes. You could be a courier express parcel company delivering couriers and parcels. You could be an e-commerce company delivering groceries to electronics, to furniture, to anything you can think of. You could be a grocery retail company doing quick commerce, delivering in 1 hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, etc. Any business that has a logistics component is a customer for us. Essentially, we provide technology to help them optimize and automate their logistics. Why? Because logistics, as we all know, is a high volume, low margin game. Any business, the toughest part of any business is logistics. To build an e-commerce company today, you can put together a website, you have templates, you have online code. You can put together a beautiful website in 30 minutes. You can build a product assortment in 2 days. You can put together a really amazing app in 5 days with the tools that are available today. But what's the toughest part about e-commerce? Logistics. How will you deliver the product to the customer, right? So logistics is the toughest part of any business. If you have a business that has a logistics component, that's your toughest problem. And that's why we are attacking that, because we feel that if we attack the toughest problem the client has, we create maximum value. And it's easier to enter that market because no one else really went there first. When we started doing Loginext about 10 years ago, or maybe about 13 years ago now, everything else was really starting to blossom. Ed tech, fintech, name anything with tech, e-com tech, this tech, that tech. But there was no logistics tech because it was the toughest market to crack, because you're dealing with different kind of stakeholders, different markets, different people. And that's why nobody was trying to crack into that. And that's why we kind of, in a way, tried to solve the tough problem. I would say now in hindsight, that was the right thing to do. Okay. So we essentially do that. We help large businesses, and large businesses because we love enterprises. Guys, another important point. Okay. Do not sell yourself short. Okay. Sometimes you may have a huge market in SME, SMB space, and your product is built for SMBs, totally fine. But you will always need anchor customers. Customers who drive majority of your revenues, and customers who will keep you afloat. Customers who are paying you $50,000 per month to run their business on your platform. You need those customers. And that is only enterprise. Okay. Then you can have an SMB business, and you can have different models there. You can have DIY kind of operations where customers can come, build their own stuff, run with it. Great, super, no problem. But eat the frog, right? There is a book called Eat the Frog, right? Eat the frog is what? Solve the toughest problem first. You get 2-3 big customers, your ship is afloat. Now you start solving other things. It's okay. And don't chase investors, guys. You have to chase value. Investors will chase you. If you chase investors, you're just one more guy pitching to them. Difficult conversation. Whenever you meet investors, you have to be on the stronger side of the table. And you'll be on the stronger side of the table when you have revenue on the table. So it's important to chase customers before you start chasing investors. Sometimes we get carried away by this whole thing of, let's raise money and do things. It's also a way to go about things in certain businesses, sure. But even there, get your MVP out, get your customers in. That's really important. And third and the most important thing, go international. Global business is easier than you think. India business is harder than you think. It's very difficult to sell enterprise software. B2B customers in India are the toughest in the world. And I can say that with some level of authority now, because I have been working with global customers for the last 7 years. And practically any country you can imagine right now, there is a 90% chance that Loginext has a customer in that country. That's the scale of global business. India business is just 10% of our total revenues. We have customers in, go ahead. Yeah, sure, jump in, no problem.
When we are working in space, which is also regulatory, BFSI especially, how does that apply especially for global?
Now that's where ICP that Kumar talked about comes into play. Don't get into, while I said solve the tough problem, also when you solve a problem, right, think about how easy it will be for you to acquire customers. If you go into the regulatory space, like for example, if you build an insurance business, right, the critical success factors of that business are very, very different. You need to have domain expertise, you need to have the right connections, you need to have capital, right? Difficult business to get into. In that case,
I'm in the mutual fund space.
yeah, then,
While it is regulatory, it's also growth business.
yes. For you, then your customers are definitely not enterprises, right? If you're in the mutual fund space, are you selling to enterprises?
I'm selling to enterprises.
What's your proposition?
We help them with distribution of mutual funds and other asset classes for their clients.
Yeah, that's defined in India in that case, because a mutual fund is obviously, as we all know, AMFI regulates it and you have all this paraphernalia around it, right? Then you have to only first succeed in India before you take it to the world. But you've chosen, and I'd be blatant in saying you've chosen to solve the tougher problem here. There are better business models in fintech which are more global by design. Again, I don't want to challenge what you're doing here. Maybe we can have a separate conversation offline. But again, if you choose an idea, right, you're going to commit your life to it. Remember that. Some of the most important years of your life are going to go into building the business. The value of that is you cannot underestimate that. It'll come, it'll ask, it'll demand a lot of commitment from you. It'll impact all your relationships in life. With your parents, with your spouses, with your kids, with money, with ambitions, with goals. It'll touch everything that you do. And you have to be aware of that. Okay? And that's why choosing this idea well and following this whole ICP approach and figuring out whether there is moat in this, whether I can really create true value, whether I can build a business out of it, you have to first spend time falling in love with that process. And if once you know that, yes, this is a market that I'm going to be able to attack and create something for me, for my business, then you go all in. Like Steve Jobs entered the music industry, right? This is nothing different in an iPod, right? I mean, iPod today is a legendary product and just goes gaga, but there's nothing innovative in the iPod, by the way. It is just a hard disk carrying songs. It's just a portable MP3 player. Portable MP3 players existed back in the day, dime a dozen. And by the way, iPod also has a Hitachi hard disk. So they don't even have their own hardware. It's a Hitachi hard disk with that whole click wheel, which apparently they claim is their innovation, which is a good, nice, fancy thing to have, but that's not the USP of the product. 1,000 songs in your pocket, the whole marketing. He attacked the music industry because if you see those presentations, they're online. He said music is an industry, it's a global industry, it doesn't have any boundaries. Anything you build in music has phenomenal scale because any country, anywhere in the world will work. So in your case, yes, I mean, in your case, global doesn't work because you have to first focus on India, and doesn't mean that if you have a business focused in India, it's a bad business, not at all. And you can create value there and you can go like Zepto and you see all these, quick commerce exploding in India like nowhere else in the world. But they are D2C businesses, which is a different game, right? In India, B2B is where the difficult part of the problem is because you're selling to people, right? We spoke about that. You're selling to people, right? Different stakeholders, the CXO, the CIO, the CFO, the VP of finance, the VP of operations. These are people who are going to make decisions about whether they should buy your software or not. And that's not going to be easy because we Indians are value conscious, right? You will not spend a rupee unless you know you're going to get 5 rupees in return. And how do you establish that relationship, that ROI? And for every rupee that you spend on my product, you're going to get value which is 5 times more, whether in terms of cost saving, increased revenues, whatever way you define value, right? So unless you know that, don't go into a market. And I'm sure you've done your homework, so we'll obviously take that offline. But a general point to everyone, right? Anybody who's building tech or building anything in tech, go global. Faster than you think. It's easier. Price recoveries are far better. Value to cost ratios are far more favorable. What you can sell in Europe versus what you can sell in India, you'll have a difference which will run in multiples of tens of value. Like for example, if I can sell a product worth $100 in India, I can sell the same product at $1,000 in the US or in EU or in Australia or in Singapore, right? And that's the big deal. And sometimes you feel, hey, international expansion is there on my radar. I have a roadmap. I'll first do this, then I'll expand into. Change gears, go global as fast as you can. Going into Middle East today, going into APAC today, going into US and EU is a little, because EU again has this GDPR and various other aspects to it, but going into Middle East and APAC today, much easier than you think. Much easier than you think. And faster onboardings, better value realization, and you don't even really, I mean, of course, we now have teams in these locations and all of that, but when you start doing this, you don't necessarily even need to have people there to start with. And you don't need local registered entities also to start with. So it's a lot easier than you think. So think global in any business that you're looking at, because that will give you scale and that will give you value. Big ticket sales, that especially in enterprise, right? B2B, that's where the value is. Okay, and before we dive into this, again, maybe let's not get too carried away with the slides. I'll rather keep it conversational. But I want to just say that when you talk about GTM, you're essentially talking about signing up as much as you're talking about onboarding, retaining, and growing. Because sometimes you may be able to sign up customers, but you will lose them. Because the larger the customer, the higher the probability of them churning during onboarding. Because there are just too many moving parts. To get them set up, there are things like stakeholder management, again, like we spoke about, right? Kumar spoke about, you're speaking to multiple people there, right? And the guy who is buying the product may not be the guy who is going to use the product, right? The finance guy, the CTO would have signed up on the deal, but the ops guy is the guy who's going to use the product. And he's going to come up with his own bunch of requirements. And you will have no clue of what he's even expecting from this. And sometimes it even ends up being like, when you do large onboardings for large scale customers, the bigger issue is the more people you have in the room, the more expectations you're going to have about what they want from your product. And somebody will say, hey, we want this to solve this problem. Somebody will say, and the more open you become, the more difficult it will be to please everyone, right? Because your product is a SaaS product. It has a closed boundary. It's not an open product, right? You can't say yes to everything and then start building for everyone. That you won't be able to do. So how do you keep people on the same page? How do you say no? That's one art that you're going to have to master in any business. How can you say no to customer requests, to customization requests, to change in processes? We are a prepaid business, right? Like I said, you want to use our product, you got to prepay. Quarterly subscription, half-yearly subscription, annual subscription. We made that decision because we knew the pros and cons of that. We don't want to spend time in chasing customers to get us to pay for what they have consumed, right? We want them to prepay. And we were brave enough to take that decision, and we walked away from deals where customers were not okay with prepaying. We were okay to say no to them, right? Which is why I'm saying develop the skill to say no to some. Because you will say no to 5 people, the 6th one will agree. Again, 5 will say no. The 12th one is going to agree. And those who agree will be better aligned with you and have a higher probability of staying in the longer run than the ones who you have somehow figured out a way to get along with. And you will never be able to please everyone, remember that. It doesn't work like that. Human beings are the toughest people to be, to sort of make happy, let's put it that way. And sometimes we are like this, we want to make the customers happy, right? You don't want to make the customers are not signing up with you because they want you to make them happy. They're signing up with you because they have a problem and they want you to solve it. And it's okay in the process if you sometimes end up saying no, as long as you are doing what is required to be done in terms of solving their problem. And that's why these things are important to be covered during the sign up process itself, right? And I'm going to talk about just 2 or 3 quick things around sign up, because I think we did spend some time understanding the whole ICP part and all of that. But 2 things are extremely important. Setting the right expectations, okay? Telling the customers about the difficult parts of this journey right up front. Do not try to just, because see, everyone wants to sign up customers, right? So sometimes we have this tendency of saying yes to everything. Okay, हाँ ये भी हो जाएगा, वो भी हो जाएगा, अरे हाँ वो भी कर लेंगे, ये भी कर लेंगे, अरे हाँ सब ठीक है, everything is great. You don't want to lose the deal, right? Nobody wants. That's the founder's instinct, right? You have the deal on the table. You don't want to let it go. You want it. So you're going to get tempted to practically say yes to everything. But then you're signing up for more trouble down the road when you say yes to everything. Because all those things will come back to bite you. 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 1 year down the road. And that customer who you signed up at all costs will actually erode value rather than creating value. So it's okay to say no right up front and set up the expectations very clearly. Good customers will appreciate that. They'll understand that, you know what, you are a mature player. You know what's going on. And even if you are a startup, right, you have 0 customers. Every customer is valuable for you. You want that first customer. You have 0 customers, you want to sign them up. But your maturity should not be compromised just because you have 0 customers. It's like Alexander and Porus, right? Like he said, how do you want me to treat you? I want you to treat me as a king treats another king. You're a founder CEO. You are a 1-person company, let's say. You're the only person in your company. And you're meeting a CEO of a $1 billion organization. Still, it's a king to king. You are a founder, you have a product, you have a value proposition, and that is what has brought you two together. You don't have to trade off your maturity for potential business benefit. And trust me, huge leaders in the world appreciate that. They like that. They want people to value themselves well. So don't fall into this trap of, you know what, I'm going to say yes to everything. I want to sign up this deal. Hey, who am I? I'm just a one-person company. I just have a small product. Okay, they are $1 billion organization. No. You have a solution to their problem. That's what is your relationship with the client. It's not the size of their business versus the size of your business. And do not hesitate to reach the right people. Write to the CEO. Write to the VP. Get a meeting with them. Trust me, these things are easier than you think. Sometimes we have this mind block that, hey, you know what? Oh, he's the CEO of UPS. Why will he meet me? He will meet you because you're going to solve a problem for him. And that's why he will meet you. And you have to first believe in that yourself. Only then you will be able to transmit that to anybody that you're going to reach out to. In the early days, okay, when you don't have enough customers, you will obviously be tempted to do pilots. Okay, you'd say, okay, let me do this for free. But you know what, guys? I'd again say a very unpopular thing here. Do not do free pilots. Correct. Charge them for it. It's okay. Because you're committing time and effort on this. And you know, not just that, if the customer is paying for something, they will take it more seriously. It will immediately improve the odds of the pilot succeeding just by the sheer virtue of the fact that they are now going to commit some time and attention to this project because they've paid for it. As opposed to when you do it for free, they don't have a skin in the game. And it is bound to fail. Why? Because no matter how good your product is, today's tech market is very democratic, right? You're not going to sell somebody a machine that converts sand into gold, right? In that case, you don't need a GTM. The market will come to you. You don't have to go to the market, you know? But you are selling something which is a value proposition for sure, right? And for the client to commit to that, you make it worthy of their commitment. And when you make it worthy of their commitment, then they immediately know that this guy has something worthwhile. That's why he is putting his foot down and they're saying this. We have said no to free pilots, even to very large customers with very high potential deal sizes. And you know what? Some of these customers did free pilots with some other folks in the market, and they crashed and burned, and they came back to us saying, you know what? I don't want to even do free pilot. Let's start with a 1-year engagement. And you know what we say to that? Hey guys, the minimum engagements that we do is a 3-year lock-in. They are like, are you guys for real? I'm okay to not do a free pilot. I'm offering you a 1-year engagement. And trust me, after a little bit of to and fro, after some so-called high-level CXO meetings and so on, they signed the 3-year commitment. That's why. Believe in it. And you'll only be able to believe in it when you're passionate about it. And the only way you'll be able to endure these things, right? Again, every day is a battle. Today you say no to a large customer, you lose that deal. You're not going to sleep well that night. How do you rise above that so that you can still sleep well and you can wake up the next day and go back to war with the same level of enthusiasm? And again, a customer is going to say no to you. And again, you come back. Again, you pick yourself up. Again, you go back the third day. And you know, one of those days, you will hit gold. But when is that day going to come? When is the payday going to come? Depends on how enthusiastic you are about it. But when the payday comes, it will put everything else into perspective. But you know, guys, you're not in it only for the payday. You are in it because you love doing that. That is the only way to build a business. If you're doing it for any other reason, if you don't love what you're doing, do not do it. You are wasting your time. There are easier ways to make money. There are easier ways to have a good life. There are easier ways to grow. Entrepreneurship is only and only for you if you really truly enjoy doing what you're doing. You really enjoy every minute of it because it's going to be hard. But if you stick around, you put in that effort, you will see the growth happen, right? So that's a very, very important reality check that everyone needs to do for themselves, right? And that's super important. And again, just pinning it back to this focus versus pivot kind of a thing, right? You feel, hey, this is not working, you know, I'm not getting customers. I think I have something great, but it's not working. What do? You keep doing that, you keep chasing that, or you change your proposition? What do? How do you decide that? Again, not an easy decision to make. Should I stay focused or should I pivot? And when do you pivot? Very difficult decision to make. Like I said, we had many customers who came to us and say, you know what, your platform is great, it's fantastic. Can you build a payments module on it? Like, I want to process invoices through your platform as well. So for whatever logistics operations I'm running on your platform, I want to also process invoices for those customers on your platform. Can I do that? Always there is a temptation. Hey, let's build an invoicing module. Big deal. Throw some tech, expertise at that. You can build an invoicing module. What's the big deal? If you have a mothership ready, a product which has 500 features, doing some really cool stuff, very well built, doing a lot of heavy lifting, to build a payments module is X number of days and X people of work, right? Build it. Customer is willing to pay you for it. And the customer, okay, this is another interesting thing. In SaaS, get the customer to pay you for building what they want you to build, if it is the right thing to build. Do not say yes to everything again. The customer comes and tells you, hey, build a payment module. I'm willing to pay you for it. Okay, it's okay. How much is it going to cost you? Okay, $100,000. Fine. I'm willing to pay $100,000, build a payment module, because I don't want to use another payment system and then integrate it and then do all of that. I want your product to do payments because it's easy for me to manage my business that way. But you think that that's not the right thing for me to do. That's not a part of my product roadmap. That's not how I want to grow. I want to focus on being a TMS, which is a transportation management system, and not a payments processing system, because there are other players who build payment processing systems, and I want to integrate with them if needed, but I don't want to build that. That's a hard decision you make. And the customer is not going to be happy, because it's a large customer, big MRR, they're paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're going to pay you to build that feature, but you're saying no, because it's not fitting in your roadmap. And you know what? There is a risk of churn, right? The customer will say, hey, you know what? If you don't add this feature, not only will I not pay you for it, I will look for another vendor who is okay to build this for me. But you swallow the bitter pill and you say, you know what? I don't think that will be a great idea. But obviously you don't want to lose the customer, right? Nobody wants to lose a customer. So how do you strike that balance? How do you make the customer understand that, you know what? This is not the right thing to do. You are using me as a solution which is solving a very important problem for you. What you want me to do is to build an ancillary solution which will solve another additional problem. In the process, you are now willing to go back and say, hey, you know what, I'll look for another vendor where I can replace both these things with another thing, right? Where you are actually undoing a lot of value that you already created, and you're going to now start another journey of onboarding another software, right? Which is not a very wise thing to do. And no customer will do that unless your product really fails to deliver what it has committed, right? So while you say no, you also have to say no while keeping the customer's best interests in mind, while keeping them in sync with your decision, while ensuring that you don't lose them. Because it's easy to say, hey, you know what, I won't build it, fine, you go. No, I don't want to lose revenue, I don't want to lose customers. But at the same time, I don't want to build stuff which I don't think is a part of my roadmap. That's why you need good solid account management teams, good solid customer relationships, good solid stakeholder management. You should be able to speak to the CXO, the VP, the project head, whatever, and get them all aligned and say, guys, you know what, this is not a great way to go about solving this problem. Why don't you integrate with another solution which is out there in the market which just does payment processing? I have open APIs, they have open APIs. I'll build the integration for you at a fee, of course, but I'll do that. And then you can use them. So you're still solving their problem, not building what you don't want to build, keeping the customer, protecting the revenue, while not losing focus. That is the key of ensuring that you are able to stay along with them, right? Sorry, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so free POCs, we should hold a banner, all SaaS people say no to free POCs, You lead a campaign for it. And if you start doing this, you change the industry norm. No client will ever ask for a free POC. Because there is no free lunch in the world, right? You think Google is free as customers? No, right? When something is being offered to you for free, you are the one that's being sold. Google is selling you to advertisers, right? And that's how you're getting Google to use for free. Of course, it's a very legit arrangement. Nothing wrong in that. But that's what it is. So customers realize that no real product will do anything for me for free. The moment you say yes to a free POC, you feel that, hey, you know what? I have said yes to it. The customer is going to like me. He's going to give me more business. No. He's going to think that maybe you have something which you're not telling me, and maybe you need my business more than I need your product. That's why you're willing to short sell. Only then you will true value. Customer relationships are not about taking the customer out for lunch, or having a beer with them, or going to a cafeteria. No, customer relationships are about solving their problems. It's about understanding them. It's about helping them see value in what you're doing for them. It's about helping them grow, both as individuals and as organizations. And coming back to, I think, Kumar's point around, motivation, right? How do you motivate the customer to buy your product? When you go into the Apple store anywhere in the US, the iPhone's in display, right? There is a common architectural concept that for any product to be in display, for it to be able to convincingly present its best face to the customer, it needs to be at a 30 degrees angle. So if the product is at a 30-degree angle, you walk onto the table, you will be able to see the product. You won't even be able to, you don't have to do anything. It's the best display angle for any human to see a product if it is displayed at a 30-degree angle on a flat surface. Apple chooses to violate that and displays the iPhone at a 20-degree angle. So it's not easy to see the phone on the table. You'll have to pick it up to see it. And that's their sales strategy. Once you pick up the phone, they get you hooked. Because then the phone starts talking to you. Then you start falling in love with it. Then you start making the decision of buying it. And every decision that any customer makes is driven by that promise of what the product can do for you. And that's where you can change gears on motivation. You know how small kids, right? When you're at the beach and there are those small sellers who are selling things, right? How toy companies sell to kids, right? They'll put the toy in the kid's hand. Like, hey, you know what? Play with this. Now, once the kid has the toy, you have the engagement going. You don't need to now sell the toy to the kid. The experience of the toy itself will sell itself. So how do you put the product in the customer's hand at an enterprise B2B SaaS level so that they see value? Once they see value, they're not going to put their product down. So that's where you have to take those tough decisions of not displaying your product at a 30-degree angle, which is what the whole world is doing, but displaying it at a 20-degree angle. Because I want the customer to take that step, to work a little hard, to understand what the product can do for them, because I know that when I get them there, I'm going to be able to get them. So equivalent of that in the SaaS industry is to not do free POCs, not make it easy for the customer, not just because you want to make it difficult for the customer, because you want to do the right thing. And because when you do the right thing, you have higher odds of success. And sometimes doing the right thing is not the easiest. Oftentimes doing the right thing is the hardest thing to do, not just in business in general. But if you do the right thing, the value is proportionately higher than the smaller short wins that you will get by taking shortcuts. That's why choosing the right problems to solve. And that's why I want to just run through this, where I want to say that at every point in sign up, because sometimes it's easy to sign up the customer, but to retain them, to onboard them, to grow them, to get them to give you references, to do all of that, lifetime value of the customer is always the harder thing to do. And that's why it's important to focus on that part of it, because signing up the customer, I think we already covered in the earlier session, and I did touch upon some aspects of this. Even if you take away one key aspect of that, let's say two key aspects of that, let's say three key aspects of that. One is go global, easier than you think. Have prepaid customers. Get the money in the bank first before the value creation even starts. It puts a strain on how you sell, puts a strain on how you identify, puts a strain on how you set expectations, puts a strain on how you create the value perception. But do that, because it's worth it. And third, and the most important thing, say no to free pilots. There is no free lunch in the world. There is no free pilot. If you want to paid pilots, okay, fine. Do a 3-month paid pilot. Worst case, do that. 3 months paid pilot, no questions asked. And that will only happen if you are truly a big believer of what you are building. If you are not a big believer of what you are building it because it's cool, 3 friends came together, hey, you know what, let's build something. No. You have to believe in the thing you're building. It should become your life. It should become you. If it doesn't become you, then it's not truly what you're meant to do. Let's put it that way. So spend time in obsessing over that and build that resonance with what you're building first, with your market, with your product, because that will be the moat or the bedrock of everything else that will come from it, right? Very important to keep that in mind. Okay, I think we have, like another 10 minutes to go? 15 minutes? Fantastic. I have this very interesting, anecdotal thing here. I'll skip some slides, which is, I have seen this firsthand. A lot of enterprises, and I speak to a lot of people. Again, when we speak to these customers, the customers that we sell to or we work with also buy other products, right? Like they also buy marketing automation platforms, or they buy finance expense management platforms, or they buy HRMSs, all kinds of stuff. What's really important is, sorry, I think I'm going in the other direction, is to somehow ensure that your customer doesn't fail. We obsess over customer success management, right? Like grow the revenue, retain them, all of that. It's more about proactive customer failure management, because if the customer doesn't fail, they'll succeed, right? If your product is meant to do what it is meant to do, it will do its thing. If you are an expense management solution, or if you are a HRMS, or if you are an analytics product, it will do what it will do. When I press the button, that button will fire a query, will fetch some data, will display the data on a page, because that's what it is meant to do, right? But how do you get the customer to press the button? How do you get the customer to figure out what that button pressing is going to do for him from a value creation perspective? Focus on that part. And if you do not fail, let the customer fail, they will figure out a way to succeed. They say that there are alternate uses of other products. For example, in India, with all this whole jugaad concept, right? They say that in some states, people use washing machines to make lassis. Crazy use case, right? Nobody would have thought of it, when they built the washing machine, that you can use washing machine to make lassis, right? But crazy use case. And you will be surprised how your customers can literally use your products in ways you had not imagined before. Like there have been instances where customers have come to us and say, there is this feature in your product which allows us to do this. And our account managers and our ops people who are product experts, who take pride in knowing the product inside out, had no clue of what that was. The customer figured it out, because the customer was so obsessed. And that's what we call creating customer champions, is an important paradigm. How do you infect the customer with the same energy of the product, of the culture, of the proposition, as much as you experience it yourself? Then you create customer champions. We have today, I'm lucky to say that we have champions of our product in customer organizations who drive product adoption just because they love our product so much. They will drive product adoption. They will speak to other markets and they will tell us, hey, I spoke to our other Indonesia market and I think they have the same use case. I've already done the demo of the product for them. Customer is doing the demo of your product to their other business unit, because they love what your product does for them and they want their other businesses to take advantage of it. So they are selling your product internally to other people. Now, they're not doing that because you took them out to a fancy restaurant for lunch when you met them the last time. They're doing that because they see value in what you are offering to them, both at the product level and at the engagement level. And that's the whole thing. Sometimes customers, when we get into meetings with them, they ask us these questions. Hey, you know what? You think quick commerce is a good idea? I was just speaking to one large e-commerce company in the US, and on a call, the CEO asks me, hey, what do you think? We're thinking of doing this hyper-local, same-day delivery kind of a model. You think it works? You think we can create value for our customers? Now think about that. Why would they want to ask me that? It's a strategic decision, right? Our product can, of course, enable quick commerce. But they feel that I'm going to be able to give him some inputs based on our exposure to other countries and other use cases and other customers who are using those kind of features on our platform. They can benefit from that insight and they can take a decision around going into a new business or not. That's the kind of trust you have to establish. And why will these, we have this very important cadence, right? And I'm jumping some slides here and there just to keep the conversational flow going. When you sign up a customer, you have to set up what we call as a growth ritual. What is the ritual? You have to set up a cadence for WBRs, MBRs, and QBRs. Everyone's heard of these terms? WBR is a weekly business review. MBR is a monthly business review. QBR is a quarterly business review. You set this cadence up and you enforce this cadence, 90% of your problems will be solved. Even today, I speak to the CXOs of all our customers once a quarter for sure. And this includes people like McDonald's CEO in Japan, to UPS CEO, to you name some of these large companies, massive companies. Why would their CXOs join that call? What's in it for them? Okay, I'm using your product, it's doing some stuff, it's adding value, whatever. But why do I need to speak to you every quarter? Unless you're creating some value for me in that 1 hour call. And for that, you have to prepare yourself. So that's where your whole organization has to come into play. Your account managers, your operations managers, your customer success people, your VPs, your whoever, right from all the way from the so-called junior most person to the senior most person. They all have to be equally obsessed and they all have to play their roles. So we have weekly business reviews, which is only the ops team attending it with the customer's ops team. We have the monthly business reviews where the senior account management team attends it with the senior folks at the client end. And we have the quarterly business reviews where the CXOs talk to each other every quarter. And that builds that stakeholder level. Again, the same point, right? Like across the stack. How do you build relationships with multiple stakeholders in the organization? Because an organization ultimately is people, right? Is people. So if I want to ensure that I'm creating value for that customer, I have to have a good mapping of stakeholders and good, strong relationships with all these stakeholders. I travel to these customers and meet them every quarter, most often in their offices, okay? Why? Because when you meet them on the ground, you hear and see a lot of things which you will not be able to hear and see if you are on a video call with them. That's another input I want to share with all of you guys. Invest in visiting customers, meeting them, and spending time with them. You will hear and understand a lot more about them than what you can imagine. Make it a part of your marketing budget, make it a part of your cost calculations, whatever you want to do. But you have to meet your customers. So when you go global and say, I have customers in the US, I have customers in Australia, I have customers in Malta, I have customers in Germany, wherever, you need to be meeting them. Because if you don't meet them often, what's going to happen? The strength of your relationship will not remain strong. And there are enough competitors in the market. Every kid with a laptop and an internet connection and a mobile phone is your potential competitor, no matter who you are. Every kid with a laptop and a mobile phone and an internet can build what you have built and can replace you for your customer in just like that. I'll just give you an example. We have this, of course, over a period of time, we've built a lot of features and, these features are more relevant for customers and all of that. But I just discovered when I was in Egypt about 6 months ago that there are competitors, there are homegrown competitors, there are local TMS solutions built by people in Egypt who compete with what we've built. Think about that. So it's not about just making the US or making, you assume that, hey, if I'm a global company, I don't have competitors. You will have competitors emerging everywhere and anywhere. Somebody here in the world right now, in the parallel universe, will be building a product that you are building. You may not know about it. And they will hit the market before you hit the market, or they will go and pitch to the customers that are your loyal customers. And remember, customers are not loyal to you. They are only loyal to value. You may have the best relationships with them. They will like you, they will pick up your call, they'll speak to you. But if they find a better proposition, they'll come to you and they'll tell you, hey, you know what? We really like you as people, we really like your product, but there is some other alternative product in the market that's available at lesser price and is solving more of our problems than what your product does. Gone, right? How do you reduce that risk? Is only when you are able to understand the customers better than they understand themselves, right? That's an important thing to take away. How do you know what the customer is not telling you? You will know what the customer is telling you, but how do you know what the customer is not telling you? That's where data and analytics also comes into play. The product usage tracking from day one, again, irrespective of your role in the system, whether you're a founder or you're an executive, whatever, you need to look at consumption data of your product across all your customers at a set frequency on a regular basis. Because sometimes data will tell you things that no conversation will tell you. And that's where you'll say, okay, if the usage is declining, if the client is removing some stores from your platform, your order revenue numbers are going up because their organic revenue is increasing, but they're removing some stores from your platform. Why? Because they're piloting other competitive software in those stores because somebody else came to them and said, hey, you know what, we can do more than what your current software is doing at lesser price. So you will not be able to know about it until they've successfully done that pilot and figured out the deal with them, and then they come to you one fine day and have a very nice warm conversation with you saying, hey, you know what guys, it's been great working with you, fantastic, awesome, super, but I have a solution which is cheaper than you, which is creating more value. So I'm gone. What do you do about that? And that's the fear that everyone works with, which is what I call as healthy paranoia. Even with an existing customer in growth mode, you cannot not have healthy paranoia. Now, this paranoia has to be healthy. If it's not healthy, it will not work. It will be destructive. You cannot live in that stress that, oh, what happens if I lose this customer? Of course, things will happen. But if you are proactive about it, it will grow you. it'll make you better. It'll make your product more customer-centric. You will build more features which will improve the customer stickiness, increase their exit costs, and improve their value proposition so that you reduce the probability of churn. How do we do that for now, for example, today? How do we reduce the probability of churn? How do we reduce the chances of customers not switching to another alternative products? By doing 3 things. Number 1, great customer relationships that I spoke about. Very important, but not just flimsy relationships, as in, like I said, not just taking the customer out for dinner, but actually understanding what their problem statements are, actually solving for them, giving them insights, giving them valuable inputs through your conversations and through your product, which can help them solve problems in their business. So that is customer relationship, which you need to keep at an A+ level. The second and the most important thing you need to do is constantly keep the product relevant to them. Constantly bring their ideas into your product roadmap. Understand what they want. Also understand what they want, but they don't know yet that they want that, right? You have to dig into their minds to figure out, hey, this is something they want, they're not telling me, but I think this will be useful for them. Think about that. So the more your product is increasingly better aligned to their requirements, both current as well as future, the better chances that the customer will stay with you. Because sometimes they'll say, hey, you know what, you have these features which are working great, but I appreciate the fact that you are thinking into the future. And you are also thinking about where my business would be, as the great Steve Jobs used to say, right? Skate where the puck is going to be, not where the puck has been. This is a great Wayne Gretzky quote in, in ice hockey. You don't skate where the puck has been. You skate where the puck is going to be, right? So that's the whole idea, where the customer is going to be after 2 years. You think about that while you're thinking about where the customer is right now, and then build for that. The customer will appreciate that you are thinking for them. You're really thinking for them, and you're solving for things which they haven't even encountered yet. But with your insight and your foresight, you're able to build it for them. They will value that. So that's the second part. Build features which are better suited to customers. And third and the most important thing is build integrations with ecosystems. That is another big way to increase exit costs. In a good way, not to block the customer. But if you are integrated with 5 other systems, or you are integrated with 10 other systems, which is providing a full suite of solutions to the customer, it's very difficult for the customer to uproot you and get another guy to come in, because the entry barrier becomes too huge. Because now the new player will need to have all those integrations with OMSs, order management system, warehouse management system, analytics systems, pricing systems, invoicing systems, forecasting systems, and whatnot. And plus, it's compounding, right? When you spend more time with the customers, when you do more integrations, when you build more features, over time, these things compound. The value that these things generate multiplies, doesn't add. Because now I'm running one business on your platform, but now because you have these 5 integrations, I can run 5 other businesses in 5 other countries on your platform, because these integrations will help me add more value to my customers. So now you are not only increasing product usage and adoption, you are also increasing market penetration, because now you are in multiple markets. And being in multiple markets has another advantage, that economically you are better hedged. Some markets will go through some, and that's the other reason, by the way, to go global, because you will be naturally hedged. One market alone, if you are an India-focused business during COVID, chances are you would have shut down by now. Because a lot of India-focused businesses took a big hit during COVID. If you are a only Europe-focused business during the war, chances are you would have shut down, because you put all your eggs in one basket. But if you are a global business, that is a natural hedge. Some economies somewhere will keep going volatile. Human beings are the most unpredictable people, right? There will be wars, there will be all kinds of funny things that will happen. But if you are across countries, you're better hedged. So one country might go in the red for you, all those customers there will face issues, but the other country might be going on a green trail, right? There'll be a positive beta correlation. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So actually this was very interesting. So based on this statement that you made earlier, right, that if there is a customer who's asking for, say, invoice
Management system, yeah.
Now, say, through my QBRs, I've realized that these are the features that maybe a few customers want, or maybe the competition is approaching with that particular feature. And that feature is there, maybe in your roadmap, but later. Yeah. So do you prioritize that?
Yeah, good question. So we have a very interesting process for that. Whenever we think of bringing a feature into our product roadmap, we look at how many customers are going to be benefiting from it. So we have a bunch of parameters, but the one of the most important parameters is if I build this, how many customers are going to use it? And what's the value of the businesses? No, we never do that. We never do anything for one customer ever. Because it's again, the opportunity cost of that is too high. Because no matter how much money you have or how many people you have or how much funding you have, it will always be a constraint. Always. Money is always a constraint, individually or as a company or as a person. No matter how much you have, it will always be a constraint. Because there will always be some things which you will not be able to do. It's a shifting goalpost. So if you build a feature, it means you're not building another feature which you could have built with the same resources. There's an opportunity cost to it. And if I don't build that other feature, some other customers who could have benefited from it are being left out. So when we say no to building this invoicing system for a particular client, we put that time, money and resources in building integrations with 5 different carrier systems which are active in the US or in EU or in APAC, which will allow us to impact 25% of our customers and potentially contribute to a 50% increase in quarterly revenue. That will make more sense for us rather than just solving for this one customer. And we're not doing that because we don't want to solve. See, we are probably one of the most customer-centric companies that I could think of. And now I'm not saying this because we run this business, but because we deeply think about the customer, even to the point where we sometimes become harsh for them because we think it's not the right thing to do. And we have the courage of our conviction to really help them swallow that bitter pill because it is for their good. You know, there's this popular saying that customer is king, right? You know, I have a slightly different take on it. I would say customer is like a child. It's like your child. Sometimes you'll have to say no to your child. The child may want ice cream, but you may want to say, hey, you know what? You've had enough ice cream today. The child may not like you for that moment. But in the longer run, they'll thank you. That, hey, okay, you stopped me from eating too much ice cream, so now my teeth haven't gone bad. I mean, no correlation between ice cream and teeth going bad, but just to make the point. So sometimes you make these decisions in their interest. It doesn't mean you want them to feel bad. It doesn't mean that you don't value their relationship. It just means that you are so obsessed by them that you're willing to be bad in that manner of speaking, not in a bad way. You're willing to take the hard decisions. You're willing to get them to swallow the bitter pill because it is going to help them in the long run and they're going to thank you later for it. And that's why it's important. We again, the other thing is, sometimes customers ask us that, hey, you know what? I have a quarterly prepaid billing with you. I'm a large QSR chain. I'm doing 5 million orders on your platform every month. Huge volumes, okay? Now, if I don't prepay for the next quarter in time, what will happen, The system will go off. Which means my people on the ground will be stranded. I won't be able to deliver orders. You understand what I'm saying? What happens if a POS system goes blind? If you are running a POS solution in a restaurant, if the POS system just, because you have not paid your subscription on time, the POS system just switches off. What happens? You cannot run your business, right? It's a live operation that is linked to that system. It's not so for example, what happens if Tally goes down? Nothing will happen. If Tally goes down for 1 hour, it wakes up again after 1 hour, you can still do your finance management on it. What happens if an HRMS system goes down? Okay, fine. If it comes back after 1 hour, we'll update the details and we'll do whatever is needed. But what happens if a booking system goes down? Customers can't book. Like what happened to Book My Show, right? The customers can't consume what you have defined for them as your value proposition. So if our system goes down, it hurts customers in real time. Customers cannot place orders. Customers cannot place orders. So some of the large QSRs that are on our platform, their customers place orders through their apps. Somebody's ordering a burger, somebody's ordering a sandwich, somebody's ordering some food, whatever. If our system goes down, that order will not reach the restaurant. Think about that. Lost business. That order doesn't reach the customer, that order cannot be delivered to the customer. So the impact of system going down in a real-time, real-world live system integration is very high. Some customers of ours use our systems as a planning engine where they plan their orders, on a regular basis. They plan it every day and then they use the system to schedule deliveries, automate deliveries, etc. Where they're not running a real-time operation, in that case, they are better immune from any real-time challenges. But there are some other customers who are using our system as a real-time system where with great power comes great responsibility. If the customer is trusting you by running their real-time operations on your platform, you have to rise up to that responsibility by ensuring that your system is not only always up, but it never goes down. Because any minute of downtime is going to hurt their business directly. It's going to hurt customer experience. It's going to increase their probability of churn. Lots of it on the ground, right? Now imagine if they don't pay their bills on time, there is a risk that their system will go down. So they know that they can't afford the system to go off. Not that we want to threaten them with it, saying that, hey, if you don't pay on time, it's an automated process. We don't even control it manually. If the invoices are not cleared on time, the customer is not paying on time, the systems go off automatically, because we can't manually control this for 300 plus large businesses in 50 plus countries in real time. No human can manage that kind of an operation by manually going and activating a customer or checking the payment and updating their status. You cannot do that. It has to all be automated. And that's where our customers know that this is the severity of it. So they will never really fail on their payments. They will always pay. We've got customers who pay beyond schedule. Like they have a 15-day credit period. They pay in 5 days because they don't want to take any chances, right? And we've built it as that because that allows our customers to also plan better and allows us to also keep our revenue pipeline clean. And it allows everyone to do what they're supposed to do rather than focusing on these unnecessary conversations of, "Arey, abhi tak paisa nahi aaya hai, abhi ye karo, wo karo." No. I don't want to get into any of these non-productive discussions. I would rather focus on value and automate these things so that it all works like clockwork. And for that, that's another quick suggestion I'll give you guys. Use as many systems internally as you can use to automate the hell out of all your internal processes. We have a system for human resource management. We have a system for payroll management. We have a system for accounting management. We have a system for CRM, for deal management, lead management, deal lifecycle management, etc. We're probably one of the biggest users of multiple other SaaS systems. We have at least 15 SaaS systems that we use to run our day-to-day operations. And what that has given us is phenomenal peace of mind on automating the mechanical tasks. So there is no unnecessary time that anybody is wasting in doing something which is not returning significant value for their time invested. I would want my account managers to spend their time in solving for customer problems and creating value on the customer side rather than chasing payments. I would want my salespeople to focus on pitching better to their customers, focusing on what the right story for a customer is, figuring out the right use case fit, product market fit, and activities that add value to the customer acquisition process, rather than wasting time in figuring out what happened to that deal and who was working on that deal. Let me call him and check, what is the status of that deal? What did you do after the customer asked you for a proposal? All of that is automated. Emails are being tracked. Systems are streamlined. So anybody in the sales team, in the business development team has a 360-degree view of every deal and every customer. They just need to log in and figure out what's going on where. All automated, which cuts down on unnecessary tasks taking away your time. And as much time as you can save for yourself, as much as you can save for your customers, is directly proportional to the value that you can create with that time. So I think that's another important thing. Automate all your internal processes and your customer-facing processes to the point where they don't unnecessarily drain your valuable time and effort in doing something which could have been automated. And again, with AI and everything, you have more tools than you can imagine to do these things, right? Okay, I'll just end in like 2 minutes quickly because I know we've gone on for this. I can talk about this for like 100 days in continuum because this is what we do on a day-to-day basis, right? And this is what I've been doing for the last 18 years of my life in various different shapes and forms. But I don't want to end without saying this. People are everything, Hire the right folks. Get them to align with the vision of your company. Startups' biggest strength is people. Not just startups, big companies as well. A lot of legendary people over time have said this. The companies that will succeed in the, this famous Darwin quote, the species that will succeed in the long run is not the one that is the strongest or the most intelligent. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. If you have to just find a corollary to that in the customer world or in the business world, the companies that will succeed in the long run are not the one that have the most money or not the one that have the best technology or not the one that has the best processes. It is the one that has the most motivated people working for them. NASA. Why? They had the most motivated bunch of scientists working for SpaceX. NASA had all the PhDs and Rhodes Scholars and God knows what all. And they could not build a reusable rocket in 100 years of their existence, which SpaceX built at maybe a fraction of the team size and with a fraction of money. Everyone knows about reusable rockets? Yeah, I think that's the whole point. You can make a paradigm shift in your industry if you have the most motivated people working for you? Are your people really the ones that want to be a part of your journey? Are your people really the ones who resonate with your vision? Are your people really the ones who are willing to go to war with you? Are they the ones that you want to go to war with? That's the strength of your business. Technology is a derivative. People are building technology. Employees are people. Customers are people. Investors are people. Shareholders are people. Founders are people. It's a people game. If you have the best people working for you, if you have the best people who are your investors, if you have the best people who are your ecosystem partners, if you have the best people who are your customers, you're set to win. But most importantly, when you're building your ship, when you're building your business, when you're building your startups, the people that you hire, as founders, you guys have to be personally invested in hiring. The most important thing you can do, because you cannot do everything. That's the other thing. I'll close on that note. Sometimes as founders, we feel omnipotent and omniscient, right? I can do, like I used to be, I can build presentations, I can sell, I can do customer success management, I can do account management, I can even code. You know, if the developer doesn't show up, I can code, I can write, I can solve bugs myself. I can, you know, I used to be an entrepreneur at some point in time when we used to run a digital marketing agency. There have been times when I actually built out a dashboard for the customer because the developer had not come in that day and the customer wanted that report. So I actually built a PHP dashboard for them using Fusion charts back in the day, which created beautiful charts for some metrics that the customer wanted to see. And that's one learning that I have had in my journey so far, that just because you, and by the virtue of being entrepreneurs, you will be a jack of all. You will know a little bit of everything, but you have to be a master of one, which is you're the captain of the ship. Your job is to ensure that your company grows. And for you to be able to do your job well, you'll have to hire people who can do their jobs well, because you won't be able to do everything. And you have to hire people who believe in what you're doing. It's not about salaries, it's not about perks, it's not about you have a fancy coffee machine in the office, it's not about having a TT table, it's not about taking people to fancy offsites. I mean, you can do all of that as well. We, by the way, took our entire team to Greece last year for our company offsite. Imagine 300 people from different locations flying into Greece, Santorini, and Athens. That's where we did our offsite, because we really wanted to thank people for an amazingly phenomenal, successful year that we had that year. So that's our way to say thank you to them. But that's not the only thing. The best thing is, do your people really relate to what you're doing? And you need to, as founders, spend time doing that. Building culture, as they say. Culture, just to complete that point, because culture, as everyone knows, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have a great product market fit. You can have a great pricing strategy. If you don't have the most motivated people working for you, sooner or later, you will be out of business. Focus on building the right culture and constantly reinforce, reinvest, realign, reaffirm it to the point that everybody who's working for you bleeds your culture. Like Apple used to have this great saying, the people who rebuilt Apple, they could rebuild Apple after Apple went down, right? Everyone knows Apple's story, I'm assuming, as entrepreneurs. If you don't, please read about Apple, please read about Google, please read about Tesla, please read about SpaceX if you are a founder. There's a wealth of information sitting in their journeys. And I would put a big caveat to this. No matter which founder comes and tells you what is going to work for you, you will be the only person who will be able to figure that out. Because eventually, everyone can only give you their experiences. There is no playbook for anything in this world. Let me tell you the brutal truth. 1 plus 1 could be 2, 1 plus 1 could be 7, 1 plus 1 could be 9,675.33, depending on the context. You will figure out your own moat. You will figure out your own secret sauce. You will figure out your own journey if you are passionate about what you're doing. That's all it takes. Then you will grow the skills. You will develop the mindset. You will make things happen. But listen to everyone, because everyone will add something to your database, your mental database. Eventually, you will have to make the sum greater than the total of the parts in terms of everything that you've accumulated. That's why listen to more people, understand what their journeys are, understand what they did. But no one on the planet, including Elon Musk, knows what is a recipe for success. You have to find it out yourself. By listening to everyone, taking every input, and then making your own secret sauce out of it. But be open. That's the most important thing. And that, be open, be passionate, and everything comes together. And that's why people are important, because your people are people who have to resonate with this mindset, who have to resonate with this culture. Then with your people, you can really get to where you have to get to. On that note, thank you guys.